Welcome back to Light the Fuse, the Mission Impossible podcast for people who are pretty into Mission Impossible, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say. We're pretty into it.
We're pretty into it. This is Drew Taylor, once again joined by Charles Hood.
Hello.
And this is the beginning of a new series. I just named it Threepril. It's a month-long celebration of Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got
Threepril?
Yeah, Threepril instead of April. So people listening to this in October are going to be really confused.
Yes.
But I think it's going to work. And to kick off Threepril, we got some big news. You want to tell people?
Yes, we've launched our Patreon page. So head on over to patreon.com/lightthefuse. And you'll see the various reward tiers that we have going there. Some exclusive benefits there. You know, Drew and I are going to record commentaries for each of the movies. Mm-hmm. And if you pay a certain amount per month, then you get different rewards. And that's one of the cooler ones. There's a monthly chat we're going to do on Skype where we can tell you exclusively what we're working on, what interviews are coming up, what episodes are coming up, and we can get your input on that and just various things that we got going on that we'd love to share with you. And so please sign up. And also, if you want to just help us out and you don't care about the rewards, and that's sounds like too much trouble, we'd love to just get $1.
Yeah. One of the big dangers that Ethan Hunt has never faced in the movies, crushing debt. But that is something that we are looking at, and we want to make that better.
Well, I think maybe McQuarrie's going to do a 2-part movie all about that.
Yeah, that would be a big... That's the ultimate mission, getting out of debt. So yeah, we're really excited about it though, and we're excited to like connect with you guys more.
Yeah,
and
it just helps us continue this podcast doing it because it's a lot of work and a lot of effort and money, and we want to keep doing it on a weekly basis. And in order to keep doing it on a weekly basis, I think we need to get this going. Yeah. So it would be great if you could help us out. And again, that's www.patreon.com/lightthefuse. So head on over there. It'd be great. Thank you.
So we're kicking off Threepril. You ready?
Yeah. Should we do the making of MI3?
We're going to do the making of MI3. This is going to be a big one, I think.
Yes.
Mostly because you found a cache of bonus features on iTunes that included a Travel Channel special. And
I think for whatever reason, too, there was just more... there were more articles and things written about this movie.
More documentation.
Than the first two, I guess, because... Paramount was really pushing it this time. I don't know, but we'll get into all the stuff.
All right. Well, let's just start at the beginning, okay? So, following the release of Mission Impossible 2 in 2000, screenwriter Ben Treblecook, who we're going to have on the show pretty soon, I think, penned an early draft Mission Impossible 3 that was adapted from a previous script of his and involved the destruction of various wonders of the world. It was set up as a prequel to the first movie and brought back Emilio Estevez, which is really interesting. We haven't had a prequel yet. After 9/11, the script contained elements that were deemed too sensitive. This was the version that Ang Lee was in talks to direct, but then he left to go make a Hulk at Universal, and that came out in 2003.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
What could have been. Yeah.
Yeah. So then on April 17th, 2002, as reported in Variety, David Fincher has become close to Tom Cruise in recent months due to overlapping interests. Fincher had been considering a World War II movie called They Fought Alone, also known as Fertig, for Columbia, which Cruise had been circling to star as Colonel Wendell Fertig. Cruise ultimately chose The Last Samurai instead, but he and Fincher remained eager to find a project to work on together, and now Fincher is in final negotiations to direct Mission Impossible 3. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Robert Towne is expected to return as screenwriter.
Interesting. So Fincher was already talking about this to Collider, and he said, you can never make exactly the movie you want to make, but if Paramount lets us do half of what we want to do, it should make for a pretty interesting film. This was the script that involved the illegal trade of human body parts in Africa. Fincher wanted to make a movie that was hard R, which he described as a really cool, really violent idea. And you know what? If you ever look up Art Linson's first book, he talks about Fincher pitching him a movie about a guy dressed in black leather that comes through the ceiling and takes out somebody's organs, and Art Linson asks him, okay, but who's the hero? And Fincher says, no, that guy is the hero. So I think that he's been working on this idea for a little while about Oregon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was not for Mission Impossible.
Well, no, but it was
maybe...
before. Yeah, but it was going to be used. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're not sure exactly what happened, but somewhere along the way, Fincher backs out of MI3, and he moves on to Lords of Dogtown, which ultimately he did not make, and Catherine Hardwicke took over as director. And then as things fell apart, there's another Fincher quote that's floating around. This one's pretty funny. I'm not the kind of person who says, let's see the last two. I see what you're going for. You'll never hear me say whatever is easiest for you. So he's not going to, make the franchise movie that you want to make. And this is after recently World War Z 2 was just canceled. And that was another franchise movie that he and Paramount apparently couldn't see eye to eye on as well, so he departed. This is
a recurring theme with him, yeah. So here's another great Fincher quote: is he said that I think the problem with third movies is that people who are financing them are experts on how they should be made and what they should be. At that point, when you own a franchise like that, you want to get rid of any extraneous opinions. So he maybe wasn't feeling heard. Yeah.
Well, that's also I think McTiernan's talked about that as well. John McTiernan's one of our favorite directors. He talks about franchises and how in franchises, the later you get into the franchise, there are more people working at the studio who think they know what the formula for success is. That's, to me, what that quote kind of sounds like from Fincher as well. So now we move on to the year 2003. According to The Hollywood Reporter, on February 26th, Joe Carnahan is in final negotiations to direct. Dean Gorgeris, who wrote Tomb Raider 2 and also ended up doing John Woo's Paycheck, also for Paramount, he's in final negotiations to write the movie. Robert Towne remains on board, I guess maybe as a producer. Paramount is eyeing a summer 2004 release.
So Tom Cruise actually got Joe Carnahan's second movie, Narc, distributed through Paramount in 2002. So they'd already known each other from that. And he was a big fan of Narc, I think, was very instrumental in getting it out there. And as for Carnahan's vision for the movie, he said he wanted to make the punk rock version of Mission Impossible. Of course, then in Variety, on June 13th, 2003, we find out MI3 has been delayed because Cruise has gone off to make Collateral with Michael Mann. They're now expected to shoot MI3 in January, which makes it impossible for the planned release date of May 21st, 2004. So now this is longer than any other break in the sequels, right?
Yes, that would have stayed on schedule.
Right.
Because the first one was May 96, second one was May 2000, and then the third one would have been May 2004. So it would have been
blown it.
But they didn't make it.
Yeah.
So months pass, and we get to a Hollywood Reporter listing on October 14th, 2003. At this point, there are 3 screenwriters named: Robert Towne, Dan Gilroy, and Joe Carnahan. No mention of Dean Gorgeris anymore. We doubt that Towne, Gilroy, and Carnahan were writing this together. So this must be different drafts they were doing throughout the year 2003. This is the first we've heard of Dan Gilroy's involvement. He recently wrote and directed Nightcrawler and Velvet Buzzsaw, both of which our beloved Robert Elswit shot.
Yeah. Also, have you ever talked to him?
To Dan Gilroy?
Yeah.
No.
Lovely. He's just the nicest man.
Really?
Yeah. We should get him on. We'll have to get him.
And is he Tony's brother?
He's Tony's brother, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So Variety reports on January 30th, 2004, that production is expected to start in a few months. So it was now supposed to start in January, and now it's delayed again. Remember that this was, the schedule is completely blown at this point. Yeah. On March 24th, 2004, in the Hollywood Reporter, Frank Darabont has been hired to write Mission Impossible 3, replacing Robert Towne. Now, this is when, real interest in this movie, I feel like, really gets going. Towne has just begun writing the script, but is now focusing on his long gestating pet project, Ask the Dust. Towne is also attached to write and direct a remake of Alfred Hitchcock's The 39 Steps, which never happened and could be interesting to see. And nothing really happened with Ask the Dust. I don't know, have you ever seen it?
Ask the Dust was the one with Selma Hayek?
Selma Hayek and Colin Farrell.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So he left Mission Impossible 3 to go make that.
Yeah. Huh. And never worked with Cruise again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Well, and then soon after was Valkyrie 2008.
Yes.
And that was the first time Cruise and McQuarrie worked together.
Yeah.
So
now there.
Yeah. So, all right, Frank Darabont, if you don't already know, is the writer-director of Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, The Mist, and he also co-wrote the best Nightmare on Elm Street sequel, Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
Darabont worked with Cruise on Collateral. He's credited as an executive producer, but one wonders if he might have helped with some rewrites on it as well. In any case, at this point, he's writing the screenplay for MI3.
Yeah. So here we are. We're late April 2004. There are various articles in Variety and The Hollywood Reporter that Carrie-Anne Moss has joined the cast. Ving Rhames is coming back, and they have started scouting locations in Ghana and Berlin and are expected to start shooting this summer for release in May 2005.
So, yeah, we're back on track.
We're back on track. Sort of.
So there's an announcement for the casting of Kenneth Branagh as the villain. Although there was speculation that Philip Seymour Hoffman would be joining the cast, that possibility has apparently ended because of a scheduling conflict. So Philip Seymour Hoffman was apparently even close to being in Joe Carnahan's version of MI3,
Wow.
which is very interesting.
Yeah. Completely different character, I'm sure. But still the villain if it's the Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Well,
and they say isn't he some kind of trafficker in the final version of MI3?
Oh, yeah.
So
He's
I
like
feel
an arms dealer or something.
Even from the Fincher version of an organ trafficker to it's
Yeah.
like maybe that villain was sort of slowly morphing through the time. I don't know.
So we got another big star who signs on, which is Scarlett Johansson. And casting for her part supposedly generated extensive submissions for ingenue types. Then on May 3rd, 2004, Eileen Atkins and Justin Kirk joined the cast. If you see a picture of Atkins, you'll probably recognize her. She's an English actress and screenwriter who's been around for a long time. She was 70 years old at this time. Was she going to maybe play the new IMF boss? And Justin Kirk is another face you'd recognize. He was the brother on Weeds, and he was nominated for an Emmy for his work on the miniseries Angels in America. So that's interesting. And the thing about Eileen Atkins is she kind of gives me like Max vibes.
Yeah.
I'm
so curious to know what part she was going to play.
Yeah.
And Scarlett Johansson, was she maybe kind of what Michelle Monaghan's part ended up being? Or was she
Carrie
maybe
Russell.
was Carrie Russell?
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's an LA Times article from May 5th, 2004 that says Germany has turned down Tom Cruise's request to shoot in the 130-foot wide glass and steel dome on top of the famous Reichstag Parliament building in Berlin. Then a week later in the Times London, Cruise has won the support of senior politicians to use the Reichstag building in Berlin. The latest draft of the script has been amended to remove acrobatics from the sequence. The dome is really cool looking, so that actually could have been a really fun set piece. And we'll post some photos of this Parliament building that's really beautiful looking. It would have been cool to have a set piece there, and maybe they still can someday.
It kind of sounds like almost the scene from Fallout, because that kind of has a dome in Paris.
Yeah.
And we've seen that deleted scene of him swinging in and all that. But all right. Brace yourself, Charles. This is when things start getting rough, okay? According to the Hollywood Reporter from July 19th, 2004, Joe Carnahan exits due to creative differences. Per Collider article by Adam Chitwood, who is a fan of the show and has posted news articles based on our podcast before, there's a Carnahan quote about in the script. I thought it was bad and uninspiring. I thought it was more of the same. We started having these vocal disagreements about it. Looking back, I just should have shut up and done my thing, but I couldn't go down that road. So is he referring to the Darabont draft?
I wonder. I mean, that's the last writer that came on, so maybe Darabont came on to do some rewrites that Cruise wanted, and maybe Carnahan didn't like them.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we can get Carnahan on, and he can just kind of like clear this all up.
I mean, that would be awesome. If we can get him, that would be great.
I would love that.
Carnahan also said in a 2013 interview with Cinefix, which you can find on YouTube, the movie was going to have a $185 million budget. He was going to get fired in a week, so he just decided to quit first. And he actually videotaped himself quitting. I think it was a phone call with Cruise.
Yeah.
He goes on to say that he put his MI3 ideas into the A-Team, which he admitted is a property he doesn't really care about. His wife loved the A-Team TV show, but he says he was always watching Miami Vice. And what's really interesting is he also says the script actually most closely resembled Ghost Protocol, with, quote, the entire team being shut down.
That's really interesting.
So you can find that YouTube video. I think if you probably Google Carnahan, Cinefix, Cinefix, but he talks about what went wrong and went down.
It's a interesting, and then all those videos that he did for that series. I mean, he's talking forever. Yeah. It's really interesting. But hopefully we can get some like granular details, because I wonder, you watched A-Team.
Yes, recently I watched it.
Yeah, which is a really fun movie, but I wonder what set pieces were for Mission Impossible. I don't know. So despite Carnahan exiting the movie, they're still on schedule to begin shooting as planned the next month at Berlin's Balsberg Studios. Have they ever shot anything here? Did they ever end up? I don't think so.
It's Babelsberg Studios.
Babelsberg?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
So July 19th, 2004 in Variety, Cruise and Wagner are reviewing a list of about half a dozen candidates and are expected to pick a new director shortly. A week later in Variety, Paramount shifts the release date in 2005 from May 6th to June 29th. They're trying to secure a director before production is scheduled to begin in less than 2 months.
So at this point, it's according to Variety, the two of them are looking for a director.
Yeah.
And they're shooting soon.
Yeah. I don't know would you take this on in 6 weeks or something?
I mean, with a Frank Darabont script?
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
And then at this point, that's what they have. They've got a Frank Darabont script and no director. Darabont at the time told Variety that he adores Tom Cruise. He also talked to Empire Online in late July 2004 about the script. He says, quote, "This is going into a very character-driven and gritty, much grittier than the first two kind of place, dealing in a more immediately graspable and relevant reality, globally speaking. It's much more in line with certain things that are going on in the headlines, and if I said any more than that, I think Tom might have me killed." So here's another person that we would love to get on the show, Frank Darabont.
Yes. He also said, "I think it's going to be terrific, whoever directs it. The choices so far for director have been really interesting, which just shows you where Tom's head's at. He wants all of these to be very different, and indeed the first two were, but I think the third is just going to kick the ass of the first two." All very vague quotes. I would love to know what this was.
I want to get my hands on this draft.
Yeah.
So there's a roundup of director names in the Hollywood Reporter on July 30th, 2004. Brett Ratner is rumored to be one of the top 2 choices to replace Carnahan as director. Others in the mix include J.J. Abrams, Gary Fleeter, Tom Tykwer, and Frank Darabont, who also penned the script. So
I think we dodged a bullet with Ratner.
This is the first time we've heard this. Ratner, he had just done Rush Hour 2, probably, and Ratner had done the Rush Hour movies, and I actually am a big fan of The Family Man, which came out in 2000 with Nicolas Cage. I like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Ratner, Gary Fleeter, and Tom Tykwer. Tom Tykwer has done some great movies as well. I mean,
wonderful films.
Run Lola Run is awesome.
Yeah,
and
he co-directed Cloud Atlas.
I haven't seen Princess and the Warrior since theaters, but I really like that movie.
Yeah, I like the one with Cate Blanchett and Giovanni Ribisi.
Is it Heaven?
Heaven,
I never saw that one.
Based on a Kraslovsky script.
And he did Perfume around this time as well, which is a
Perfume.
Very weird movie, but I appreciate its weirdness.
Yeah. Also, it's just a testament to how far-reaching Tom's, tastes were, that he's going to TV. Gary Fletter, who's he's done some... He did one of the Morgan Freeman... He did Along Came a Spider, or I think he did Kiss the Girls.
Oh, okay.
One of those movies. So he's pretty mid-tier. And then, Tom Tykwer is at that point a German director, pretty unproven in America. And I mean, seeing Frank Darabont do one of these scripts that he wrote would be really interesting, because I think at the same time he was working on the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull script, which was another rejected screenplay,
right?
For a big director. So it would be interesting to see him actually get to make one of those movies.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder how much of a scramble this was.
Yeah.
Did he sit down and meet with all these people, or were they just kind of looking at names, being like, "What about this guy?" Was it offer only at this point? Were they just sending it? I mean, I'd love to hear what was going on behind the scenes here.
Yeah, but even him thinking about Abrams makes me. It's sort of a precursor to Bird in the sense that he went to somebody from TV and then somebody to animation. That his taste is not limited to the 5 guys that can direct a movie of this scale. He's looking elsewhere. So Variety says Ratner, and this is amazing, John Woo were rumored as potential replacements, which is astounding given the production of Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, this is the first I'd ever heard that John Woo might have come back.
Yeah, that's crazy. So rumors circulated at this point that crew members in Berlin were issued their last paychecks and told to go home. And this is also sort of entwined with the Superman shuffle that was happening around that time. Right. With J.J. Abrams' Superman script, Flyby, which got Warner Brothers excited enough to shelve the Batman versus Superman movie that Wolfgang Peterson was going to direct from an Andrew Kevin Walker script. Do you remember this?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So this was all... I mean, that also shows you that there are a limited number of people who can do movies of this scale, and if they're committed to other things, it screws everything up.
Yeah. So Warner's hired Brett Ratner to direct the J.J. Abrams Superman script.
Okay.
Then Ratner left. Then McGee came and left.
Did you hear why McGee left?
No.
Because they were going to shoot in Australia, and he's afraid of flying.
So
he
was going to direct a Superman movie despite the fact that he was afraid of flying.
That We Are Marshall is him working out all of his issues.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, and then this is when J.J. Abrams lobbied to direct his own Superman script. And then ultimately, Bryan Singer was hired, and most of what J.J. wrote was tossed out for the 2006 movie Superman Returns. Crazy.
Yeah.
And then Brett Ratner has a quote in USA Today. He says, "Everyone played musical chairs. We're all friends, and we all got movies, but not the ones we were expecting." So Ratner ended up with X-Men 3, Bryan Singer got Superman Returns, and J.J. got MI3. The 3 movies came out within 8 weeks of each other, all in the summer of 2006.
Wow.
Insane.
That's crazy.
It really is the Superman shuffle.
Wow. Okay. So supposedly Cruise became convinced that J.J. should direct the film after binging a season of Alias all night, presumably on DVD. So he was, fumbling with discs and things. So,
yes, this is pre-streaming.
Yes. So J.J. initially took a look at the dark, politically intricate plot of Darabant's script and told Cruise he wouldn't do the film. J.J. says, "I just felt we had already seen lots of intrigue, lots of action with the first 2 movies," which is interesting because that's kind of Carnahan's reason for leaving,
right?
Too.
Yeah.
But I guess ultimately Cruise stuck with J.J., obviously, and let Carnahan kind of go his own way.
Yeah. So J.J. told the Boston Globe around the release of the movie, Darabant's script was a more politically minded, impersonal, mission-based thriller. It didn't feel like the version of Mission Impossible that I could best deliver. Cruise then asked J.J. to describe his ideal mission film, and J.J. said, "I would want to do a more personal story, where you see who Ethan is when he isn't working as a spy. What happens when this guy goes home at night?" And Cruise told him, "That's what I want to do."
If that's what he wanted to do, why wasn't that what he wanted to do from the beginning?
Well, I think it was until he heard the idea.
Okay.
Like, I think that, this is just from print. I'm reading his quote, but the way that I read that quote was, as soon as he heard JJ pitch it to him, he was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome."
Right. So Abrams got to work on his own version of the movie. Cruise and Spielberg had actually asked JJ to do a rewrite on War of the Worlds, but JJ was busy for the pilot for Lost. Cruise said of JJ, "You look at stuff that he's done as a writer, as a director, and it's always about character. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to see what he could do with Ethan Hunt." Which is true. He does do character stuff really well.
Yeah. It's interesting that they tried to get him on War of the Worlds. And It just didn't work out.
So that is settle for David Kep. Oh, brother.
So this is from Paramount's production notes. Tom Cruise says, "The instant I walked into JJ's office, we clicked, both artistically and personally. JJ's work has everything I love about movies. His characters, the personal stories, the twists and turns. The first thing I said to him was, 'What would you do with this series?' I want this to be a J.J. Abrams Mission Impossible."
Wow. So here's another Abrams quote for you. "The script was rewritten. I'm a huge fan of each actor that they cast originally, but to have kept the actors when we were reinventing the story would have been an odd process. To say, write a script with these people in mind for characters that haven't been written, it just felt like we had to start over with a clean slate." So, bye-bye, Brana.
Bye-bye, Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson, Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people to leave behind. I don't know.
So now in August of 2004, the shooting of MI3 is postponed until next summer. Cruise wanted to stay on schedule, but JJ was unavailable because of his obligations to ABC's Lost, which premiered that fall.
Okay. So a month later, on September 17th, 2004, in The Hollywood Reporter, it's mentioned that Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orsi have been hired by JJ to help with the script. The 3 of them end up sharing credit on the script with ampersands between their names, so that means they actually wrote it together as a trio.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's like the WGA arbitration.
Yeah, if you ever look at the writing credits, if there's the word spelled out "and" that between the names, that means they didn't write it together.
Okay.
But if there's an ampersand, the little "and" symbol, then you know that they work together.
And they were obviously on Alias.
Right.
There were Bad Robot Boys for a while.
So then, according to Variety from June 8th, 2005, Mission Impossible 3 gets the official green light from Brad Gray. He was the head of Paramount.
Yes.
There were several days of intense negotiations to rein in a budget north of $150 million and a gross payout to Cruise of 30%. They came to terms, which the studio would not comment on. The budget was trimmed by at least 10%, and Cruise also agreed to modifications on his payday. According to this article, on MI2, Cruise paid John Woo 7.5% out of his own end. And Cruise made as much as $70 million on that film. Cruise also holds a state-of-the-art deal on DVD. So while most gross players get their percentage on 20 cents of every dollar of DVD video revenue, Cruise takes his share from as much as 65% of the pot.
Holy.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So this is all from a Variety article, and that's pretty crazy.
Wow.
And that's all the pre-production of MI3, and I feel like maybe that's a good time to break.
Yeah, we'll come back with the production
next week with the production.
Yeah.
But again, check out our Patreon page. We would love it if you step on there and even just threw $1 at us or 50 cents.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever you
Whatever you can spare. If you love our show and you are enjoying our episodes and you want us to see more, make more, you want the weekly episodes, we'd love your help.
Yeah, and go back, listen to episodes, rate and review us on iTunes or whatever format you're listening to. Mm-hmm. And we'll be back next week with more of Mission Impossible 3.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.